Hey y'all, I'm back, and boy, I got a bit more efficient at going through these albums since last time, so I'm gonna try to go a lot faster. I bothered to take notes this time around, so hopefully that leads to a more concise video. I also have more music that came out this year, so that should be more exciting. I tried to branch out of metal more, so uh, I have broader stuff to talk about, but I'll get to why that kind of failed shortly. This is like 99% metal still. Um, I don't want to waste a lot of time in the intro this time, so the last thing I'll mention is I'm going to do my best to try to talk about the band Galnerius, about 31.2% less this time around, hopefully. Once again, I'm going in chronological order with stops to stick with each band's discography before continuing to that next year. All right, so first thing I have is something that breaks the rules a bit. Normally, I only care to review full-length studio albums because I want to cover artists who use the medium to its fullest, and an album should be the best way to do that. But Django here predates the modern notion of an album, since he didn't write symphonies or concertos, or release things as a group like the Hungarian dances or pictures at an exhibition. His recordings were made sometime after his prime too, if I'm not mistaken, so he just kind of made random collections. Anyway, this guy is a legendary guitarist, and I've never given him a proper listen. I know I've heard his songs here and there because I'm sure my brother listened to him at some point, and I've heard snippets. So I took the time to do that, and this was a really fun listen. This thing just breezed by. What I wouldn't give to live in an age where this kind of music was what they played at parties and bars and what have you, because this is a real toe tapper. That being said, I wouldn't say this grabbed me and moved me the way I hoped. I'm going to commit what's probably a cardinal sin here and place him in A instead of S. Somewhere around here. Something I've been realizing about myself is that I'm a bit of a romantic. That is to say, the classical genre of music. You know, if you know how that's defined, it's about emotion and telling a story a little bit. And that's what I expect the best music to do, to move me, or tell a story, or take me on a journey with a beginning, middle, and end. And this just feels like a jam session, just a happy party of excellent guitar music. The last note I have here is about how this forced me to break down and get a streaming service. I started piggybacking on my wife's Spotify. I was using YouTube to find music since people all over the world just shove stuff on there, so you can always find a song, legitimate or not. And then if I liked it enough, I can buy it. But having constant ads when Django songs are like 2 minutes long, like, just really sucks. Like, constantly. The next album here is... Oh boy, are you ready for this? If the last one upsets you, you ain't seen nothing yet. Here we go. Where did it go? Yeah, right here. Whoa, what? Bam! F.
Shaved and hairless, what once was screaming now lies silent and almost sleeping. The brain must have gone away.
I've read a lot about this Lou Reed guy and how influential he was, and I really don't know about that. Like, it kind of feels like people are overinflating his contributions to like rock and metal and alt music and whatever. And like, what did he do? He came up with the idea of like ruining the recording process and making his music sound terrible and unprofessional. This album sounds awful even by 1968 standards. Like, nothing is mixed correctly, and there's tons of distortion all over the place. And then there's the musicianship, which is not great. There's a two-person back and forth vocal part, which I'm going to include in the little snippet that I put in here. Where the timing is off and the volume is inconsistent. It sounds like one person blasted in and the next voice turns skittish from the intrusion. It's like children in a stage play stepping on each other's lines. It reminds me of crap me and my brother would record on our original iMac using a single computer microphone. The microphone itself was from a Mac Classic 2, which is like 10 years older, and we would basically just do stupid nonsense that the average person would find annoying as hell, which was made it funny to us. We were trolling. Notably, my brother is a guitarist, and he was too lazy or something to figure out how to record his electric guitar. So he just grabbed his cheap nylon string acoustic and recorded that, and then he cranked up the gain in post to cause it to have distortion. It sounded really bad, about as bad as the guitars on this thing. Now, a thing that's going to come up is people will say, oh, you don't get it, man. But there's a fine line between avant-garde, weird, outsider art and pretentious bullshit. And I think this is the latter.
It's such a fine line between stupid and clever. Yeah, it's just clever.
I read a comment from Lou Reed where he basically was saying Frank Zappa sucks. Zappa is in a similar boat of being pretentious nonsense, quote unquote. But if you know anything about music and or research Zappa's background for a few seconds, it kind of becomes clear that he knows what he's doing. He's got jazz and classical chops. He also has a sense of humor, which makes his music harder to parse if you're taking it all seriously. So the fact that Reed thinks Zappa sucks makes me think he's a fraud, because that's what frauds do. They quick to be like, no, that guy's bad. I'm real. And now we have Inagata da Vida by Iron Butterfly.
Inagata da Vida, honey. Don't you know that I'm loving you? Inagata da Vida, baby. Don't you know that I'll always be true?
And this one, I guess goes here. So now we're coming up on a bunch of stuff from 1968 and 1969. The reason this happened is that I've been thinking of doing a video about the best metal album from each year, from the quote-unquote start till now, which would be 2027 when the video comes out, I would expect. I've seen this video done a lot, and I really wanted to take a stab at it, I don't know, for my own reasons. And I wanted to be a smartass and start my video in 1968 instead of the obvious 1970, because a bunch of stuff leading up to then clearly inspired metal. But now that I've done my research, I have to concede the point and just stick to 1970. This stuff from the 60s is just too much of a stretch. Anyway, we've all heard the title track from this a million times, and I've realized I've never actually listened to the full album version, which is about 17 minutes long, I believe. My conclusion is that the main riff is cool, but the rest of the song and album is not particularly grabbing. The singing is not good. And a bunch of the time on that title track, that massive 17 minutes that I mentioned, is spent on a drum solo. I guess everyone was trying to be Ginger Baker or John Bonham around that time. Admittedly, most of my disappointment comes from a Simpsons gag where Bart tricks his church into singing the song during hymns. And the way the joke plays out is that everyone is sweaty and the organist collapses at the end of it as if the song is incredibly complex or taxing. And it really isn't. It's just long. So here's a band called Vanilla Fudge with an album called Renaissance.
I can't go on in misery. I'll love you till eternity. The looks you gave me with your eyes, the love we spent all in this high.
Where does this go? I think it goes here. So I have a funny story about this band, which is my dad told me about a concert he went to however long ago. And it had Jethro Tull and Led Zeppelin as the opening acts, and this band, Vanilla Fudge, was the closer. Anyway, yeah, if you don't know who this band is, I guess that's the punchline. Like, what? I mean, I guess a lot of people don't know who Jethro Tull is, but expect to see them show up on this list. Probably next time. I don't have them on here, but I definitely want to talk about them. Because they're great. Anyway, this band made me realize that I might hate psychedelic rock. It just bores me with its drawn out dissonance and aimless wailing. This also features a cover of Season of the Witch that they made spooky, which is kind of fun, which is probably the best thing on here, but you know, it's a cover, so whatever. And now we have Steppenwolf, their self-titled album.
I like smoking lightning, heavy metal thunder, racing with the wind, and the feeling that I'm under.
Where does this go? I guess this goes probably either here or here. I don't know, because this is another album. Both of these albums are just carried by one track. For those who don't know, the song that I'm talking about for this is Born to be Wild. It's clearly the standout by a million miles. For those who don't know, this song, I mean, I'm sure you've heard the song, but for those who don't know about the history of heavy metal, this song is the birth of the phrase heavy metal, as far as anyone knows. It's used to describe the sound of a motorcycle. And from there, journalists and fans would use it more and more throughout the years. And a lot of the bands from the 70s, which would get the label, didn't actually use the term themselves. It's kind of, I don't know, it's a funny thing, because there's a lot of discussion about what's heavy metal and what's hard rock these days. And I feel like a lot of these modern metal fans struggle with the 70s stuff. I would think they would. I don't know why. I'll talk about that more when we get to Black Sabbath. But I have this note later on that says, watch and see, like, these people are going to say that Black Sabbath isn't metal one of these days. But that's I'm getting ahead of myself with this conversation topic. All right, so we got Jeff Beck, Truth. So where does this go? Maybe this goes over here. I don't know. Maybe it goes over here. So I have a couple things to say about this, but not really about the album itself, because the album has a lot of blues covers, songs that I've already heard, and I like the other versions more. Maybe Jeff gets more interesting later on. Perhaps I'll find out. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, this got me thinking about the era of guitar heavy music, or guitar guy or guitar god music. Somewhere around this time, maybe starting in 1965 or so, there started to be these artists that would people describe as guitar gods, like Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, and this guy, Jeff Beck, and others. And there are still new guitar gods coming out, like even to this day, but what's changed is public interest. See, from about 1965 to somewhere at the start of the 90s, everyone cared about these guitar gods. The average rock fan cared. And it was not like a niche thing. And sometimes I forget about that. You'll notice a lot of the bands that I tend to talk a lot about are guitar god type bands. So I hope that helps contextualize my opinions, because I think these days, a lot of people who might hear this stuff, like, people these days just don't care about guitar solos, like, almost at all. So you kind of have to be a guitar guy to care about this stuff. So sorry if that makes this whole list seem like out of whack, but I mean, obviously I care a lot about melody and songwriting, composition and stuff too. But these guitar god guys, like this, all this Garden area stuff, Symphony X, which there'll be more of as time goes on. Okay, so here is Blue Cheer, Vincebus Eruptum.
Lord, I got to raise a fuss. Lord, I got to raise a holler.
Vincebus? I don't know. I never took Latin, sorry. I don't even know if this actually is Latin. So this one's gonna not do great again. Maybe it's better than this. I don't know. It's kind of boring. It's not a great recording, and there's too many covers, and the songs are like sloppy and chaotic. I was talking to a friend about this problem, by the way. These 60s albums having so many covers. Apparently this was something record companies used to force on bands. They held the belief that it made the album more appealing. Can you imagine that? You go and buy a new album and half the songs are covers? I'd argue it's less valuable. I mean, I like covers, but that's excessive. I want to buy new music. Then I have their next album, Outside Inside, which I don't know. This is... These are kind of like just getting slapped in here a little bit with these psychedelic rock ones. This one's even more sloppy. The B-side is recorded outside, which is why it's called Inside Outside. That was a bad idea. It just sounds worse. Like, I don't... What? Why? I also have a note here that just says, why did I give this band a second chance? I don't know. All right, so this next band, Coven, comes with a fun story time again.
Bubbling pot of unguents and potions, flames revealing the obscene motion.
This band is Coven, and they came out before Black Sabbath. The year is 1969 for this, and I'll get to why that's relevant. So somehow, by looking at this, I imagined exactly what kind of music it is, which is plunky 60s music. It reminds me more of the music in Disney's Haunted Mansion ride than Black Sabbath, which I guess makes sense given the time that that ride came out. I'll put this here first. I think it goes there. So this is an interesting piece of history because this has a song on it called Black Sabbath. Like, it's literally the first track on the album. And one of the band members, the bassist, goes by Oz Osbourne, which is crazy. Black Sabbath denies any influence or something. This is so weird because for those who don't know, the first Black Sabbath album came out in 1970, and they were originally a band called Earth. So, kind of weird that happened. Apparently, there's no connection, which I guess is entirely possible once we talk about the history of this. So, apparently, this whole thing was just like a stunt made by this producer to grab attention through shock value. I was surprised this was able to exist because of how overly satanic it is, but I guess it's not that surprising because it apparently got pulled from shelves immediately. Like, the last track on this is just a recording of a Black Mass, which is funny because it's like not as spooky as it sounds, because it sounds like a regular like Christian church, because there's a guy with like a handsome voice being charismatic, being, oh, do this and blah 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 blah. You know, it doesn't sound like what we would expect from our nightmares. And just to talk, I guess I have some notes here about, for those who don't know, Black Sabbath and many other early metal bands aren't actually satanic. Their songs are cautionary in their themes, but the band members themselves are, either Christian or close to it. At least I guess that's for Black Sabbath, this note. I know Tony Iommi is Catholic, I believe, and he's like the main guy. Ozzy claims to be Christian, but I think I don't know. We'll call him non-practicing. He doesn't seem like a terribly Christian in his actions. But anyway, later on in the 80s and such, a lot dumber bands would actually be satanic and quite serious about it. Some of them were still doing it for shock value, like Slayer. Also, again, the singer for that, Tom Araya, I believe is his name. He has said he's Catholic, and his defense is that if a silly metal band can like make you lose your religion, then you must not have had much faith to begin with, because it's just for shock. Like, they don't actually believe this stuff. It's just, hey, here's some cool songs. But from what I understand, some of these other like bands are actually serious about it. And from what I understand about the actual Church of Satan is that it's basically just an atheist church, but I guess they rally against the more oppressive beliefs of the Christian factions, which is, I guess, why they invoke that name. But to actually believe in Satan makes no sense. Like, you basically believe everything in Christianity, but they got it backwards and the bad guy is a good guy. It makes no sense. So when I call Satan is stupid, that's what I mean. That it's just something to do for shock and attention, but some people don't realize that's what's going on and commit to it. Like, I don't know, it's like they didn't get the memo, like, no, what are you doing? Like, this is all for fun. Anyway, for the record, I'm not a fan of organized religion of any kind, so I'll just leave it at that. All right, Grand Funk. where am I putting this? Maybe here. So I have some notes here. The bass is very loud. It's a nice listen. Inside Looking Out is a major standout and pulls the album all the way up in the ranks. It is a cover, so minus points, but they definitely kind of made it their own. I listened to the original just for reference. But man, I really love that song. It's great. It's not as good as Sales of Charon, but I guess the rest of the album is maybe a little more consistent. All right, so here's Black Sabbath. So here's the story here, okay? I really love Black Sabbath. They have multiple eras of music where they've been changing their sound and stuff that I enjoy. And there's a period in my life where I was really into them, and now I'm still pretty into them. Just not as sucked in. I've been slowly getting around to listening to all of their albums. Maybe I'll do a video where I rank all of their albums. Obviously, I've heard this one before, but it's been a while, so I listened to the whole thing through just to do it. I'm committing another cardinal sin here because I'm gonna rank it pretty low. I mean, it's better than this stuff. So yeah, but still B. Boo me. So anyway, I just don't vibe with how bluesy and jammy this album is. Their sound gets way more refined and perfected on the next two albums. So part of this low ranking just comes from having higher expectations from their other material. I also like to point out a couple things. I guess this is the note from earlier that I was talking about. People always complain about power metal being cheesy. The first song in this album features a story about a creature pointing at the narrator / protagonist, and his reaction is, "Oh no!" It's so performative, and it sounds like a horror movie from the 1950s, like how it would sound like with an electric guitar. And the second song on the album, The Wizard, is about Gandalf from The Lord of the Rings. Metal has been cheesy from day one, so power metal being cheesy makes it more metal. All right. So here we go. We're gonna commit another crime. Are you ready for this? Oh no! Wait, no! There. So a lot of fans of Black Sabbath will tell you they rate this pretty highly, and I obviously don't. This is a pretty, mid rating, as they say. There's a lot of things that don't quite sit right with me on this album. Some of the stuff kind of reminds me of 60s sound, funny enough. There's a string section used randomly. Ozzy is a little buried in the mix and has reverb on him. Tony Iommi's guitar work sounds a little sloppy to me. The songs just don't stick that well, and they don't work like from transition. I think in my clip I'm adding, maybe I'll have a little bit of that. They were going for some sort of weird prog approach with lots of changes and influences, but they just, I don't know, they don't connect. Making your music prog, which is, prog rock, progressive rock, for those who maybe don't know, is definitely like a hit or miss thing to do, because when your music is way more complicated and has a lot of different changes and stuff, it's harder to make everything like fit together when they're, when they're like diametrically opposed styles of music. It's really difficult to do. And there's also lyrics about love on this one. Like, I don't know, they're trying to make their songs more relatable or something. I don't know. So here we go. And I guess I'm committing more crimes, more war crimes this time. Oh my God. This is another album that Black Sabbath found rate very highly. I guess that's why I revisited these two, because I keep hearing people talk about these albums. Oh, they're so good. And I had to be like, am I crazy? I feel like I listened to these two albums like way less than their other stuff. So I gave them another chance, and here we are. Ozzy's back in the mix on here anyway, which doesn't work out too great because I put a note here that the singing on Am I Going Insane sucks, and the song itself sucks too. People like the riffs on this album, for example, Symptom of the Universe, but I just find them to be too simplistic to really be that interesting. And then in addition to that, they're still doing the proggy thing, but it's, again, not working as well. In between these two albums is Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, which is another album that's fairly proggy. And for spoilers, I rate that up here. I really love that album. That album really works. It's great. So I decided to brave further into the dark years of Black Sabbath, like I was doing last time. And welp,
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this. And totally redeem yourself!
Cannot be This is the house of dying. The spirit of man can't be free.
kapow. Wow. They finally figured it out. From what I can tell here, Tony finally let the new members contribute to songwriting. At this point, like, everyone from the original Black Sabbath lineup is gone. It's just Tony Iommi as the founder. You know, there's no Geezer Butler on bass, there's no Bill Ward on drums, and obviously no Ozzy or Dio for that matter. And they have a new guy named Tony Martin. And Tony Martin really belts out these notes. And he does a lot of good work on making the melodies work. And apparently they must have found their chemistry too, because the songs on this thing are just they work together so well. The purists don't like this one at all, probably. But, you know, I love that 80s sound that they've managed to work with Sabbath riffs. It sounds great. The standouts I have for this are When Death Calls and Nightwing. But everything on this album actually is good, and like they work as a cohesive album. It's just great. So now, unfortunately, we have Tear, which is the next album, still with Tony Martin.
To the land of eternity, right in the cold, cold winds of Valhalla.
This one falls quite a bit, I would say. Maybe I'll put it there. I'm not sure. Many of the songs have too many vocal effects, but there's a cool transition from Odin's Court to Valhalla. I made the clips already. I will be letting you hear that. It's kind of cool, but it's kind of a jumble. I have a note here that I probably need to re-listen to it. Re-listen to it a little bit, but maybe I'll have to give it some more. But yeah, I don't know. Somehow it's not quite there like this one. And then we have 1992 with Dehumanizer, where Dio comes back and they kick out poor Tony Martin, who did all that hard work for a reunion of sorts.
Waiting for the revolution, nuclear fission, genocide.
Geezer Butler is also back on bass, so that's pretty cool. This one, you know, people rate this one pretty highly, but like, yeah, I do not, as again. And it sounds like they're trying to make it sound like it did back in the Dio days, which would be 1980, 1981, so 10 and 11 years earlier, or wait, 11 and 12 years earlier. So they completely ditch the sound that they had perfected here, which I think is unfortunate. But Dio is singing, it's like he's trying to be harder. I don't know, I just don't know what he's doing. He's less melodic. He's trying to be like edgy or something. I don't know. It's because it's the 90s, I guess. He's also 50 years old at this point. Like, this is such a funny factoid that came up when I was watching some video talk about this album. Dio's 50 at this point. That means he was, I think I looked it up, he was 40 or 42 during his solo album, which was all the way back in 1983. Oh, I guess, see. 40, so he's 41. Okay. So Dio was 41 by the time he finally got to do a solo album. It's crazy, crazy. Poor guy. He's older than these guys, is what that means. Because I think Tony Iommi is like 44 on this album, or 45, which is interesting, you know, because you think about Black Sabbath starting in like 1970, but Dio was already just working in bands no one's heard of at that time too. He didn't get noticed until Rainbow came around, and he got to be enlisted into that from Richie Blackmore. So thank you, Richie Blackmore, for that. Otherwise, hard to imagine a guy like Dio just going through life and never getting, noticed. I'll be talking about that at some point. All right, so now we have Deep Purple in rock.
You better close your eyes. Oh, bow your head. Wait for the ricochet.
I guess I'm committing more crimes here. More criminal crimes. I'll fix this. Yeah. This is a very important album in the history of things. It's the first album with Ian Gillan on vocals, I believe. And this is most notable for Child in Time, that song. That song is really amazing. Really carries this album. It's miles ahead of everything else in terms of like substance, I guess you'd say, instead of just being, fluff or just rock and roll. So anyway, a lot of metalheads tend to label Deep Purple as not heavy metal. They're like, it's hard rock, and I guess this album maybe is closer to that. But this has been a thing with metalheads saying that, this or that isn't metal. And it might be getting worse nowadays as I wrote jabroni-ass Gen Z fans, and that's my note, of death metal and metalcore are now calling everything hard rock. And I have the note, mark my words, one day Black Sabbath will be considered not metal by these idiots. Anyway, Deep Purple is a little trickier. The band themselves doesn't consider themselves metal, as far as I know, and a lot of the core fans don't either. But remember, most normal people hate metal and don't want to be associated with it. But certainly some of Deep Purple stuff is metal, and all of it has been super influential to metal bands, even today. So many power metal bands try to have the keyboard guitar duels, like Richie Blackmore and John Lord do. And notably, the 70s was much more broad with the term heavy metal. Just look at the soundtrack to the heavy metal movie, which I guess came out in 1980, but there's a lot of 70s bands on there. Like, what is this stuff? Journalists has just thrown this genre at this band in the past, and they've blatantly been part of metal tours, so, like, come on, like with other metal bands. Anyway, what I'm going to do, my determination, is that I can cherry pick some of their albums as metal. This album is not, but this is a landmark album. Also have a note here that I am rating this album a lot lower than other people probably would. I just don't think the sound is there yet. I have some notes here about the songs. I think Flight of the Rat kind of sucks. It's too long. It's interesting that's proto-punk. And then just another note about Child in Time being a great song. And the side B of this album kind of sucks. All right, so here we have Who Do We Think We Are by Deep Purple once again. So I have this note that it goes in B. Where does that put it? Like down here? It's kind of interesting that this is here. Maybe this needs to be moved. So anyway, I have this note here that says, apparently I've never listened to this album. Like something like 16 years ago, I listened through Deep Purple's 70s material, and I don't recall listening to this one. So anyway, I have some notes about the songs. I have a note that says, last song sucks, is pretty underwhelming, but Super Trooper, Smooth Dancer, and Rat Bat Blue are pretty decent. This is also the album with My Woman from Tokyo. That's the big hit. That relates to the whole thing. And Ian Gillan's singing seems a little not great on this album for some reason. All right, and now we have this album, Deep Purple, Burn.
If you're drifting on an empty ocean with no wind to fill your sail, the future your horizon, it's like searching for the Holy Grail.
And where does this go? I think this goes here? This seems kind of like sacrilege, but that's just how I feel about it, I guess. So this is the beginning of the Mark III lineup of Deep Purple. For those who don't know, Deep Purple's first lineup had a singer named Rod Evans, who sucked. Mark II, which began with In Rock. Oh, good, I wrote that down. Good. So I was right. Which is why that album's such a landmark, because Mark II had Ian Gillan in it, and he's great. He's much more, like, unique and interesting. And all their classics were with the Mark II lineup. Everything before Mark II is, like, forgettable. Like, their big hit, Hush, is a cover on top of that. So whatever. And Mark III replaced Ian Gillan with David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes. But I guess they lost their bassist, too, because Glenn Hughes played bass. And David Coverdale might be one of my favorite singers ever, and the double vocalist concept is really cool. So yeah, Mark III is great, very underrated. It's a cool concept. Kind of a different band though at this point. And I read an interview where Richie Blackmore said that much. And this album is good all throughout. It has some all-time greats on it, like Burn and Mistreated. That's why it's up here in S. I do love the funk elements, which Richie Blackmore hated apparently, but he's a songwriter, so I don't know how that happened. Like, he's the main riff writer. But I don't know, I guess it's a collaborative, and somehow that happened. I don't know how this happened. Where would this funk come from? There's some boogie woogie on this album, which is a weird genre. I don't even know if that's the right word. Oh, maybe I read that and someone described it as that. I get like boogie woogie and honky tonk confused with like just 1950s rock where they like do that piano mashing thing. I don't like that sound for whatever reason in my head. I don't know. It doesn't work. I don't like it. Don't mash the keyboard. Dun, 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 dun. You know, you keep on knocking about you can't come in. Woo, woo, like that kind of stuff. Like, no. Anyway, this album was also important for that metal album per year thing that I was talking about, because 1974 is kind of a rough year with not a lot of good output from people. There's no Black Sabbath album, if I remember correctly, or is it? I think there's no Black Sabbath album. I think there's a collection that came out that year. So yeah, 1974 was tough. But we have another album for 1974 from the same band.
But I feel I'm growing older, and the songs that I have sung echo in the distance like the sound of a wheel going round. I guess I'll always be a soldier of fortune.
And look at this. Look at this. What am I doing? Being a contrarian. So I'm ranking this higher than Burn. From what I understand, Burn is pretty much considered the better album of these two by everyone. It's more consistent. But this one just has such high highs. The title track is awesome. I think it is more easily labeled metal as well. And the song Soldier of Fortune at the end is just an insanely good ballad. Coverdale singing is beautiful and it's a very emotional song. And lastly, from Deep Purple for now is Perfect Strangers.
Can you remember my name?
album goes somewhere. I think it goes here, which is, I guess, crazy, but I don't know. The title track on this is so good. There's definitely some interesting stuff here and there. I have this note, not responsible. The song Not Responsible has swearing and an explicit warning, but I think that was a bonus track. One of these was a bonus track, or at least one. The song Son of Alaric is kind of cool. And the other note I have is Hungry Days has interesting keyboard sound. So anyway, this album is another reunion type album. The band had broken up in 1975 or 76, I believe. And this is the reunion of the Mark II lineup, which is Ian Gillan and the bassist again, Roger Glover. So it's really cool. I'm sure people at the time were losing their minds. Because at that point, Richie Blackmore had moved on to do Rainbow, and people probably thought this band was dead. So wow, cool. Here's a cool album. Here's a reunion and an album that comes with it. And the album's pretty good. So that must have been a lot of fun for people back then. All right, so now we get to take a trip down prog rock lane with Yes. And this album is called Fragile. And it's time once again for me to commit more cardinal sins. This. So I really like prog rock. It's something that I should do more of here. It's always interesting. It's always crazy. But there's kind of like a wide range of what prog rock can be. And I guess the best way I know to explain it is I'm much more into the wackiness of Jethro Tull and not into the like mellow, stoned out, like Pink Floyd type of stuff. And Yes is pretty crazy. They're on the crazier side, I'd say. But this album in particular, Fragile, this is the one that has Roundabout on it, so it's probably crazy that I'm rating the solo. I just don't really care for that song. But the note I have is that I don't care for the hits on this album. And the rest of this just feels like scraps. And yeah, that's all I really have to say about this one. It doesn't resonate with me as much. But this album, maybe I'm rating this too low, actually, because I see people rate this extremely high. But for me, it's at least an A. This is really enjoyable. I have a story here again in my notes. When I was a kid, my brother was listening to this and I hated it. This was like the first time I heard prog rock, and I was probably like 12 or 13 or something at the time. Not when this came out. I was not born when this came out. That's not what I mean. When I first heard it is what I mean. And I was definitely not ready for this disjointed nonsense music. But all these years later, I've definitely found an ear for it, and I love it. I have a note here that says I'm probably rating it too low. I need to re-listen more. I did listen to it again before this video, and I don't know. I think I'm sticking to this. And I have a note that says this is a contrarian thing to say, but I just find this so listenable. I can just zone out to this because that's more for the crazy parts that are just like I'm gonna have a clip in here of what I'm talking about, so you get what I mean. Yeah, it's so fun. It's so fun to me. All right, so I have some Queen now, which I will explain why I'm bringing Queen onto the list now with the next album that's on here. But for this first one, I guess I'm putting it here. It's pretty good. I watched a YouTube video of some old guy ranking Queen albums, and he put this as his number one, which my note here just says no. And this album does have some all-time hits, like Killer Queen. I think for a long time that might have been one of my favorite Queen songs. You know, Queen. Everybody knows Queen. I don't really have to explain this, but they're very experimental, but like commercial at the same time. It's very interesting, like what they managed to do with music. And of course, Freddie Mercury is like one of the best singers ever. So the other note I have here is Brighton Rock is a mixed bag. I think some people really like that song. I think it's kind of weird. It's also a really weird choice to open the album with, but I guess, you know, they're supposed to be a rock band, so I assume I can imagine a producer telling them you gotta have a rockin' opening. So that song kind of rocks. It's kind of insane and crazy though. So anyway, here's another thing I decided to do, and that's this. So, something I thought would be fun when making these videos would be I would throw in a God tier album whenever I can, which I guess maybe that spoils the fact that the rest of these aren't God tiers, but whatever. So I realized people are going to be most curious about this God tier, so I might as well abuse it and make sure I can add something, even if it's an album I've heard a billion times, which I definitely have with this one. I didn't need to re-listen to this to really make a decision. I mean, sheer heart attack, yes, I did, because, I don't know. And this album is actually quite bizarre. It's the one with Bohemian Rhapsody on it, so, you know, you might expect with this rating that the whole album is like that. But it's actually not. It's the only other song that fits that, like, concept of what the band sounds like would be Prophet's Song, which is maybe my favorite Queen song, actually. But most of the songs have a weird... I would define them as like vaudeville or sometimes Dixieland. Like, what do you call this is my note.
I feel like dancing in the rain.
It almost comes across as a joke, but the songs are perfectly executed, memorable, and full of Freddie's immaculate singing. Like, I put the song, even though I haven't listened to it all the way through in a long time, and I like remembered like every note and sang along to everything. Like, it's like so perfect, it just hits you. And I don't think the power of Bohemian Rhapsody can be overestimated. I would expect some amount of people to find it cringe or overly silly, any number of criticisms. But even the most caveman-brained music fan will find themselves singing along to it. And no amount of cynicism on my part can summon anything negative to say about it. It's just an incredible song that's so unique and truly stands out among decades of music since. And the rest of the album is 9s and 10s too. I'd put Prophet's Song in the same ballpark as Bohemian Rhapsody, which, you know, that's what I mentioned. It's my favorite song, maybe my favorite song. I also wanted to bring up this album because while it's not metal, Queen is incredibly important to power metal and metal as a whole. The soaring guitars, the layered vocals, the storytelling. It's such a big influence on so many bands. Like, it's like so clear the more you listen to a lot of this stuff, which I think happens soon too. And oh yeah, I have a note. This album was also the perfect test for volume normalization feature on Spotify. Which is something I had turned on just because I bounced back and forth listening to older songs and newer ones. And due to the loudness war, I'll just put like the wiki page on here as a screenshot or something for those who don't know what that is. It gets really annoying having to adjust the volume constantly. Anyway, that feature was clearly ruining the dynamic range of the songs on this album, meaning the quiet parts are too loud and the bombastic parts are too quiet, and thereby destroying the artist's intent, so I had to turn it off. All right, so remember I said 1974 was a problem year? Well, here we go. Here's a 1974 album. And I guess this goes somewhere. Maybe here. So yeah, I checked out a lot of stuff from 1974. This one has high effort musicianship, but didn't really stick, and I kind of felt bored. At times I felt like It's a Lazy Deep Purple. This is Uriah Heep Wonder World. In case I didn't say that enough. Maybe I'll listen to more Uriah Heep in the future. This is not their best album. So I need to check out their best album, which I think is called Demons and Wizards. Then we have Budgie, In for the Kill.
Living ain't easy, it opens your head.
Might put this up here? I don't know. It might be crazy. The only note I have here is that it actually kind of rocks and may need a re-listen, so I guess I should get on that. And then I have UFO with an album called Phenomenon. I guess this goes here? Question mark? Not very metal at all. So I guess that was for nothing. There's a couple of clear hits on it, so I guess that's why it rates higher than those other ones. Like Doctor Doctor. And I like the guitar work a bit more, and the vocals are pretty decent. I just comment, why the PDF lyrics? The first song is called Too Young to Know. What is with bands from the 70s and 80s, and they're singing about like being with girls that are underage? Like what are you doing? Why? Like, maybe do that. If you're gonna do that, like, it should be like a dirty secret. Like, why are you making songs about it? And don't do that in the first place, obviously. But like, what the hell? Why? All right, so now we get to Scorpions. We haven't seen Scorpions before. They're a pretty cool band. They're pretty influential, so you can expect to see more Scorpions in the future as well. I didn't do a whole lot of them, just 2 albums. And this first album is 1974, the problem year. And unfortunately, this doesn't do much to... oh, this is C. Oh, yeah. This didn't do much to help with that, unfortunately. And then the only note I have is here. Some cool stuff, not quite there. This album is called Fly to the Rainbow. All right, now we have another Scorpions album called Love Drive.
Love, I can tell you how I feel. Always somewhere, miss you where I've been. I'll be back to love you again.
Racy album cover they have here. I guess this goes up here? Question mark? Maybe that's questionable, but that's the way it's gotta be. Above this? No. I don't know about that. We'll see how I think as time goes on. There's a lot of cool guitar stuff on this. The song Always Somewhere was instantly recognizable. I have a note here that says Coast to Coast. There's a lot of cool guitar stuff. Klaus sounds, the singer, Klaus Meine? I don't know how to pronounce his German name. He sounds tired and weak at times and is low in the mix on the first song. But, you know, maybe that's kind of the style to sound vulnerable. Stuff like that kind of thing. I also have a note here that says, Is Anybody There? Is a song that's like some weird, like, proto-80s reggae shit. I don't know. I don't know what that song is. I clearly did not care for it based on this note. That one probably needs more re-listens, especially since 1979 is going to be another trouble year. So I'll talk about that. And spoilers, this one might end up winning, which feels weird to have a best metal album of the year be like beat here. It's like, oh, how did this happen? Oh God. All right, so here we have Rainbow Rising, and boy, oh boy.
In the heat and the rain, with whips and chains, see him fly. So many die. We built a tower of stone with our flesh and bone, just to see him fly. We don't know why.
Oh boy. I think that goes there. It's Dio. It's maybe Dio's best singing. I think maybe his time in Rainbow as a whole is his best singing. I don't rate this as an S, which I'm sure most people would, which is probably another sin, a crime. Boo. I do feel like the song Tarot Woman is a weird choice for opener. And a lot of people like the synth stuff at the beginning, but I have a note here that says too much synth fluff. It's not a bad song. It's just not S tier, I guess. Then the next note I have is the song "Do You Close Your Eyes" is annoying in places. It's kind of like the radio hit that they put together. And the most notable song on here is a song called "Stargazer," which is the big epic that's like super inspirational, like power metal and stuff. It's like 8 minutes long, and it's pretty awesome. My problem with it is that it reminds me of Kashmir by Led Zeppelin too much. Like, I think this came out a year after that song did, so it seems possible that Richie Blackmore was like, I'll do that, but better. And I do think it's a better song than Kashmir in like every conceivable way. But that connection, I guess, ruins it for me. I don't know. There's also the song "A Light in the Dark," which is another 8 minute long song, which I think most people think is pretty cool. It's another epic, wow. But I feel like it seems kind of lazy at times, and it should not be 8 minutes long. It's mostly a jam band. But the reason I put this here was because I had to re-listen to it to make sure that that's how I felt, because I guess spoilers if I talk about Rainbow in the future, I like the other two Dio albums more, so those are probably both going to be S. But anyway, 1976 was not necessarily a trouble year. I just had two albums to pick from, and so immediately I get to talk about the next album, which is Judas Priest's "Sad Wings of Destiny." And so I guess that goes here. Still not S again. I think it could be S if there was a little more polish, at least in in the studio. But that's unfortunate because they were a small band at the time and didn't have the resources they would have even in the next album, and they hadn't perfected their like guitar tone and stuff. And the notes I have here are: strong effort, still feels a little awkward. Stuff like guitar tone and mixing aren't perfect, but there's a lot of cool. And it's an operatic experience. Queen influence, question mark? I actually read something that said that yes, they were influenced by Queen. So that's very deliberate. So it's a very cool album. Oh yeah, I also have a note here that says Halford shows off his range with lows and extreme highs. I actually think that Dio is a better singer than Halford, and I don't think it's not really that close. Like, Dio's just better. Like, he's just better. I know a lot of people kind of are either Halford or Dio when it comes to best metal vocalist. But for me, it's easily Dio, and Halford's, I mean, he's not far off, but he's not that close in terms of Dio's just better. But anyway, I guess the songwriting is just better and more interesting on this album, so I kind of give the nod to that. Yeah. And then I have more Judas Priest with Sin After Sin, 1977. And this... Once again, we've got an S. Oh boy. Let me look at this. Does this go here? Maybe it goes here. So yeah, this album has a few songs that I really like, you know, as opposed to this, which doesn't have songs that stand out that much to me. It's just like a overall like great experience. Um, this has songs that really stand out to me, like Sinner, Starbreaker, and Dissident Aggressor. And all the other songs I think are pretty good too. It's just that those are the clear standouts. So yeah, Sin After Sin, that's gonna end up, spoilers, that's gonna end up winning 1977. So here we go, the next troubled year, 1979, with a band called Riot. Note here that says BC. I'm still unsure. I guess I need to give it another listen. You know, maybe this belongs here? Sure. So yeah, this band is a real band, contrary to what you might believe by looking at this album artwork. And so yeah, I had to search around for this band. I hadn't really heard any other stuff, I don't think. They're a little bit smaller, I guess. Maybe time is kind of erasing this band a little bit. They're also called Riot V or Riot 5 now or something. They're still around, even though I think the main guy is passed on. So the spoiler here, as you can see, is that I'm probably going to go with Love Drive for the best album of the year. And I have a note here that says, I can imagine, you know, the comments are going to be metalheads like yelling at me to put a Motorhead album in here. Because I think they had 3 albums come out in 1979. But sorry, I've never been able to get into Motorhead. If you've noticed a consistency with me, it's that I really like good singing, and even like Motorhead fans, I've seen videos of them be like, yeah, Lemmy can't sing, but they're cool. And you know, his voice is definitely kind of funny, but just their sound overall I don't really care for either. Sorry. Anyway, my note here is I can't believe this band has a dedicated singer. He's like a poor man's Geddy Lee. And this album is just lots of jamming and guitar solos, but there's no range of emotions or tempos or keys. Every song is a jam of the same energy. I mean, maybe I need to listen to some more. It's just, I don't know. It's weird how much some guitarists really seem to like hit me. So you'd think I would like the like constant, like crazy guitar work in this, but it just doesn't, I don't know. It just doesn't connect with me. Okay, so next is a band called Triumph, and this is called Just a Game.
Lay it on the line. Lay it on the line. Lay it on the line. Don't waste my time.
It's very 70s rock. It reminds me of Boston and some southern rock stuff, but they're Canadian. Funny enough. Note here it says good vocals, but it didn't really wow me. It's like it's tough because there are so many 70s rock bands that I really love, and especially with that Boston comparison. I really love Boston. Like they really have like a perfect sound, which I know probably a lot of people hate because it probably is like overproduced, quote unquote. But at least, you know, the guy, Tom Schultz, was the producer. He did that. He did that himself. He created the sound in his basement. Crazy. In 1976. So maybe I'll talk about Boston at some point on here. But yeah, it's 70s rock, and it's like I can see why I kind of forgot or didn't really know about this band and amongst all the other 70s bands that I know about and listen to. It's not quite as good, not quite there. So now we have a band called Cirith Ungol, which on glance made me think it was some kind of, I don't know, death metal or Swedish band or Swedish death metal band or something. But I believe this is actually a Tolkien reference. So this is actually supposed to be like proto power metal type stuff. And this goes, I think this goes like here. The note I have here is it's a great listen. So maybe when I re-listen to this, maybe this will get up to A. But I don't know. The note I have is bass is loud and funky. Might have to re-listen, but didn't stick too much. And once again, I have the note, can't believe they have a dedicated singer, because he's just like wailing, but it's just like a guy. It's just a guy. He's wow. Yeah, they're pretty cool. I've heard some of their albums. This is their first album, I believe, and one of their next albums is like their best albums. I guess I should do that. And so here we go. Here's another Japanese band with Loudness. The album is Disillusion. I believe I looked this one up because I wanted to get into Loudness, and I researched what their best album is, and this was kind of mentioned as being their best. Where does this go? Oh boy, this is one that's probably gonna need another re-listen. Maybe I'll put it there. Because the note I have says B, maybe A. Because I do remember the note here says some great guitar stuff. I remember some really cool guitar work on this. And it has cool songs and good variety, but bad mixing and mistakes in the recording. And the singer is not quite great. Not great, which, I don't know, maybe that's part of... There's another album later on from some Japanese band where I had make a similar comment, where it's like, it seems like they just went with the first take. It's like, you can do multiple takes in the studio. That's allowed. All right, the next album is Dio, Last in Line. And this is another crime, more war crimes. I apologize for committing atrocities against mankind. And this one goes pretty high, I guess, but a lot of people really like this album, so they would consider this a very low rating. But my story is I love Dio an awful lot. He, as a singer, belongs up here, but this isn't a ranking of singers. This is a ranking of albums, which is, requires songwriting. And the songwriting on here is not enough, I guess. The story I've written down here is his work in Rainbow and Black Sabbath has earned him a good number of best metal album spots for their respective years. His first album as a solo act is also really good, which is before this one. This is the second album. But unfortunately, it's overshadowed by some young upstarts named Iron Maiden. Anyway, I really wish I liked his solo career more, so I listened to more of it. And the note I have here is this is pretty good, but pretty meh. It's a shame. It seems like his first album is his best, and immediately it's all downhill from there. The best track on this is the title track. It has a story and journey aspect, but just doesn't have the songwriting chops to deliver. It's just shy of 6 minutes, but probably needs to be closer to 8. But that assumes a proper build and middle parts and finale. Maybe this needs a re-listen, especially since I'm pretty sure most people say the best song on this album is the last track, so I guess I need to reinvestigate that. But I don't know. I listened to it and it didn't pull me in. That's been my thing. It's like, if it doesn't pull me in, then I'm like, whatever. Moving on. All right, so the next album is another Dio album called Sacred Heart.
Tonight we run. We can hide in the dark when the moon steals the light from the dying sun. Alright, it's a better thing than we have ever done.
And unfortunately, it seems like something horrible has happened here, because now we're in the D category, even though this is the next album. So the note I have here says some sort of audio issue, even in the remaster. It's like grainy, dry, rough. These are like the kind of the words. that I've tried to figure out how to describe this. As for the songwriting, it's poppy and it's light, and I hate the fake crowd noise on the first song. Yeah, I don't know why he did this. The standout is, I guess it's not the standout. I have this note that says "like the beat of a heart is okay," so that's why it's in D. The next album is Dream Evil, also by Dio.
We can give you a piece of the universe, or we will disappear, never to return again. And all the fools sail away. All the fools sail away.
And thankfully, things have gotten back a little bit. Where does this go? Does this go like here maybe? So yeah, this one has distortion on Dio's voice throughout the whole album, and it's worse on some songs like Night People. And I don't know if this is intentional or what the deal is. There's more interesting stuff on this album. I have 3 songs noted that I thought were pretty good. All the Fools Sailed Away, Overlove, and When a Woman Cries. So there's at least some stuff that kind of stuck with me that makes me want to re-listen to it again, which I probably should. And then we move on to the last Dio album for now, which is Strange Highways in 1993.
Please, please don't let him in. Is it all beginning again tonight? Somebody make it right.
I say give him a go. Look at him run away.
And unfortunately, we're falling down again. Falling down again. Falling down. Falling down. But the note I have here is finally, the recording sounds good. The songs feel very samey on this, and I'm not a fan of the guitar tone on here. And this continues Dio's obsession with raspy vocals, which he did on, where'd it go? This, Dehumanizer, because this album came out after this. The story here is, Dio came back to reunite with Black Sabbath. And then Black Sabbath was going to go on tour, opening for Ozzy Osbourne's solo act. And Dio said, I ain't doing that. He should open for us. So he left after just releasing this album. And as a result, this album kind of feels like a companion piece to this album. Like he kind of continued working with that sound. So yeah, that raspy singing, I don't get it. There's not enough focus on melody. Dio has some beautiful stuff on Rainbow and on the Black Sabbath years before this one. Did I mention the 2 other Black Sabbath albums he was on would be in here and S? They're very good. So yeah, unfortunately, that's that. I don't know if I have enough patience to listen to more Dio albums. The songwriting is just not quite there for me. I feel like every time I've researched what albums of his are good, it kind of confirms what I believe, which is that the first album's the best, and it's kind of all downhill from there. Sometimes this one is put on the top, but I'm like, okay, well, if that's the best, then ugh. All right, so now we have a band called Fate's Warning.
When the stars are waiting, you're around. Secretary, and the world will die. On your mind, we'll hold back at your presence. The doors open wide. The enemy side to turn back. Dream the bombs of the stand for me. Scream pale. I just can't be dancing. Take me away, take me away. I wanna.
There's another. The album is called Spectre Within. Yeah, okay. This is another year where I was doing some research. Because it's not really a bad year. I just kind of wanted to make sure with what I was going to go with, and I guess I confirmed that because this is not better than that other thing. not better. Not better. Not better. Maybe like this. Maybe like Manowar. Yeah. The vocals. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me read what I wrote here. Well, the first note I have is the vocals are all over the place. Like the melody is just a barrage of words. I already remember recording before this recording. I recorded all the clips I was going to use, and the clip I have should be a pretty good example of that. That kind of is how it goes through much of the album. When he's not jabbering on like that, you know, they go on long extended musical solos and stuff, and that's when this stuff gets a lot better. I have a note here that says maybe it needs to re-listen. Some cool stuff, but really jumbled. Maybe not. Maybe I don't need to re-listen. I listened to a little bit of it. Now it's kind of like, I don't need to listen to that again. All right, so here's the spoiler. This is the album that's probably going to go for album of the year. And I guess what explains why I needed to make sure was because I think I'm going to put this album here. This is Megadeth, Killing Is My Business, and Business Is Good. This is the original artwork, by the way. The Spotify clip will have the remaster artwork. And yeah, so note says, hey, here's that possible winner. And this is another band that I could probably do a video ranking of all their albums, because I think I've listened to or struggled through, in some cases, all of their albums at this point. Yeah, I think I have. No, there's one I haven't. It's System Has Failed. For some reason, I haven't listened to that. So that's it. I just have to listen to that one. And I would have listened to every Megadeth album. I'm pretty sure I listened to Risk all the way through. Anyway, even though I listened to all their albums, a lot of them need re-listens, like this one. Even though I've probably heard this a number of times, I just haven't listened to it all the way through. And plus, you know, because I'm doing research for that video, I wanted to make sure what my thoughts were. So anyway, my thoughts are, I really love the title track on this. And the song Mechanics is really good. Then I have this sarcastic note of, hey, did you know that this is the same song as the Four Horsemen? Because there's a very famous incident between the guitarist for this band, Dave Mustaine, having been in Metallica before being kicked out, and he told them not to use his material, and they did. And if you listen to Mechanics from this album and Four Horsemen from Metallica, you'll notice they're the same song. Other than that, that's kind of the most egregious example. All the others are just like riffs that they use here and there. And the note I have here is Rest Is Okay. I think I'd probably maybe from okay to decent, assuming decent means better than okay. Which is why it's not an S, I guess. And that the cover is bad. He does a cover of These Boots Are Made for Walking for some bizarre reason. And the other note I have is I didn't remember the song Looking Down the Cross, which is weird. Because I kind of listened to this album and like I was like, I recognize everything. And then I didn't recognize that one at all. Which I don't know how that happened. Which I guess means it's not as good, even though I've heard people say how much they love that song. I'm like, Oh, and then I have a note here, a little warning for people. I feel like I have to mention this every time with Megadeth, but there's a lot of different remastered versions of their albums out there. In most cases, I would recommend just to listen to the original versions, because some of the remasters are bad, especially the 2004 Rest in Peace one, which is this album. Don't listen to the remaster. Please listen to the original. But in the case of Killing Is My Business, you kind of need to re-listen to the remaster because the original is so poorly recorded. So maybe some of the remasters are okay, or actual improvements as far as the other albums go. I don't know, but it is kind of a minefield to figure out. In the case of this one, I would listen to one of the remasters. Unless you're one of those like black metal guys who's like, yeah, bad recording is good. It needs to sound bad because that's how I know it's pure or something. I don't know. I think most people aren't insane, so they won't agree with that sentiment. So just listen to the best version of it. That sounds the best. All right, so I guess while I was at it, I figured I'd re-listen to this album, which is Peace Sells, but Who's Buying by Megadeth. And where does this go? Oh my God. Does it go there? Maybe. I think it does. I don't know. It seems kind of crazy, but I guess I do love Megadeth kind of a lot when they're good, and not so much when they're bad. Have I told the story? Did I tell the story last time? Actually, I guess I must not have, because I only had this album. But Megadeth is one of those bands that because of this, I enjoyed this so much that I listened to like every album and like bought most of their albums. And like they're so hit and miss. Some of their albums are just so boring. Like it's like it's like, why do I do this? Why do I give a band so many chances? I've done that a few times in my life where Gallinarius is the new one where I'm constantly giving them chances. And that's the way it's going to be for this foreseeable future because they're much more consistent than Megadeth. But anyway, this album is one of the good ones, as you can see. The only negative I have here is lots of chugging, though. I know a lot of people, this is kind of the thing I've been thinking about, is I think some people really like just having chugging. Just that's a little under sophisticated, I would say. If you're going to have chugging, you should probably have like good melody. Or, you know, mix up the riffs, do a lot of crazy shit, like the song Wake Up Dead, which is the first track on this. It's an all-time great for thrash. It's just off the bat, like, wow. And it's just all over the place. There's so many different riffs and so many, like, good solos and stuff. It's a great song. The clip I'm using, I have a note here, Conjuring is one of my favorite riffs ever, which is the clip I'm going to put in here. But the note I have is the songwriting is a bit sloppy. And the other note I have is, you know, something I've noticed that Megadeth has that Metallica doesn't is groove. Like, it's interesting. They have songs like with a cool beat and, you know, instead of just guitar solos and riffs. Yeah. But I think that kind of fades away. I don't know. I don't know why. Who knows what goes on in Dave Mustaine's head or why he writes the songs he does. All right, so now we're jumping all the way to the future of 2022 with The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead with Megadeth again.
Starship Utopia. Earth has been made for us, but we have found a new way, and you are the first in line. Starting crash landing procedures. All systems standing by. Over.
I think this goes here? Does it go here? Oh, wait a minute. Right up here. Maybe it goes here. Probably need to re-listen to this one. Then I have is here that's more effort than the new album, which I'll be getting to. And the songs seem like they have ideas. There's more effort in the vocals. The song I'm putting in here, Mission to Mars, is silly. The note I have is for this album is it's half thrash and half lazy. But that's kind of Dave Mustaine's MO at some point. Is he sometimes seems like he puts in the effort and sometimes he doesn't. He's just like, whatever. But this one feels like it has a lot more passion than the newest album, which I'll talk about. I guess right now.
If I ever play again, then let this last note never die.
So, this album, it's my first album of 2026 that I'm covering. But, it's not great. Yeah. Yeah. Supposedly this is Megadeth's last album. It's self-titled, or the White Album, which I guess is to stick it to Metallica or something. I don't know. It's fine. That's the note I have here. Dave sounds apathetic and lazy in his vocals, and every song is short. This is only a 40-minute album, which I think is fine. I really wish, I'll probably make this argument multiple times when I do these videos. I wish we would go back to the standard of albums only being 40 minutes long. So I think that would be good, but this is just not, it feels like it's just like, I did the bare minimum in this case. And I also have a note here, there are some pretty cringy lyrics because Dave is trying to be relatable or something. Puppet Parade talks about punching in a clock. Dave's been doing music since he was like 18. He's never worked in an office and hasn't had a real job in over 40 years. He's a millionaire for at least the past 36 years. He doesn't know. There's also the song I Don't Care, which seems like it's supposed to appeal to like the MAGA crowd or something. Because like, yeah, I don't care. I'm so cool. And there's like a bunch of kids like skateboarding in his music video. He's like 60 years old. So and then there's a song Let There Be Shred where he like wins a karate tournament, which I guess is a music video and not lyrics, but like, yeah, it's something. And I think some of his promotional material used AI as well, so there's that. And the note I have here is I do want to re-listen, but only to give another chance for the new guitarist. He's supposed to be really good. They always are. But I'm so distracted by these blast songs. Maybe I won't do a re-listen. I don't know. Looking back on it, like my opinion seems to get more and more negative the more more I look at it in retrospect. And I've heard a lot of talk about the last song, The Last Note, which I just find it okay. I kind of wish he ended on a high note, like a thanks to all my fans, happy ending for his endless cynicism. If I do this clip, I'll put a clip in here of Ultimate Sacrifice by Galnerius for what I would think would be a big final payoff, and maybe some clips of him smiling and shaking hands with his fans. Instead, he seems to be taking his anger to the grave, which I guess is pretty on brand for them. But yeah, the whole concept of I wish he ended on a high note. I wish that's what this album was, like a last hurrah of like major effort. But instead, he just shoved out another album. And spoilers: this will not be winning my album of the year for 2026. I can say that pretty safely. All right, so now we have a band called Cacophony with Speed Metal Symphony. This is a band featuring Marty Friedman, who is famously from Megadeth as his best lead guitarist, and a man named Jason Becker, who has a very unfortunate backstory. I will want to check out some of his solo stuff, but unfortunately, there's a reason why I haven't heard of him, is because he got like taken out by a sudden critical permanent illness of some sort. I believe some sort of paralysis, like very young, like in his 20s. So that's why he didn't get to establish a following or anything, which sucks. But anyway, this album is not gonna do super great on here. I guess it goes here because this is a bunch of noodling, right? I'll put it above that noodling. So yeah, the note I have is it's very technically impressive, but kind of a hard listen. You know what? Maybe I don't do that. It's just like there's so much shredding with discordant duets. And the singer they got sucks. Who is this guy? That's the note I have. I don't know. They should have not had a singer. They should have just shredded, and they should have more like less craziness. Like I don't know if they're like improvising together at the same time, but like it's kind of crazy. And it's a little hard to listen to. I guess I already said that, but that's the note I have here. But anyway, both these guys will go on to do really great things. So, you know, this album's important stage of their career. Good for history lesson there, I guess. All right, time for Curveball. It's Paula Abdul, Forever Your Girl, 1988.
I've been fooled before, wouldn't like to get my love caught in the slamming door. How about some information, please? Straight up now, tell me, do you really wanna love me forever? Oh, oh, oh. Or am I caught in a hit and run?
Hooray, a non-metal artist. Isn't that fun? Where do I put this? Oh, man. Oh man. Do I put it this? Maybe here. So it's a non-metal artist. Hooray! I love the sound font of the synthesizers in this, and there's actually a couple good melodies that are really like stand out, like are memorable. The singing is mediocre. Paula Abdul, I believe, is a dancer. That's where she got her background. She might have even been a dancer for who was she dance for? I don't know. I don't know anything about her history. Whatever. Singing's not great. If it was better, then this would rate higher for sure. The note I have here is this a concept album? Because so many of the songs have like a similar theme of like questioning the loyalty of her boyfriend and stuff. Just I found it like I guess it's just repetitive, but I'm just being a jokester here. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. I had that thought. Is this a concept album as a joke? But then this album happens. This album is a concept album. This is Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation 1814. Which is like, first of all, the title and the fact that she's wearing like this pseudo like Nazi uniform. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And I guess it's. I mean, my impression was that it was going to be like almost like power metal. Like here's this fictional tale of this horrible city and its civil war and stuff, but it's actually more about like political stuff and current events. The note I have here is Black Cat reminds me of Simply Irresistible. Who are these guitarists? Their singing has not as much personality and is not as exciting or pretty as his brother, her brother, Michael Jackson. And that the songs are too repetitive. So, oopsie. This goes here maybe, which is crazy. You'd think, oh, she's a better singer than this, so why doesn't she go up there? But really, it's just, the songwriting, the melody writing, I should say, and the songwriting is being repetitive. I had to look this up. I guess the genre is dance pop, because, I'm like, why is this so repetitive versus the other pop stuff? And that's the reason, because it's designed to be danced to. You can't have changes in your song. It just has to be the same thing over and over again. And like I said at the beginning, I like songs that have kind of a range of things that happen. Her brothers, Michael Jackson, I guess I'll have him on here at some point. His work, I mean, obviously he's dead and I'm not famous enough to get a person to show up on my show. Especially not one that's like the biggest in the world. Yeah, her songs are just not on his level. I don't know. I'm a pretty big fan of Michael Jackson. Even though I first listened to him when I was a toddler, he's like one of the only things that stuck around where I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. Obviously, he has a lot of problems. And I try to separate the art from the artist if I can. Because, I don't know. I feel like artists are generally broken in the head and have all kinds of problems. So it can be difficult if you have to separate everything. I mean, it's not like his songs are advocating the things that he allegedly did. So, anyway, his sister, on the other hand, seems to be very more thoughtful about the world and things, because there's all sorts of political songs on here in the first half. One of the songs is about mass shootings. This album came out in 1989. And I just have this note that's like, oh my God, this crap's been going on for all this time. How long? Living in America, I guess I should point that out. We have these mass shootings like constantly. And it's crazy to think that it's been going on that long. Like nobody's doing anything about it. Here we are in 1989 where artists are having to, make these depressing songs to try to get people's attention to fix the problem. And they're still here. Like, ugh, why? Maybe we need more songs like this. I don't know. All right, so we're taking a trip back to Japan once again for Japan X, which I guess they originally just called X. Or were they called? Are they called Japan X or X Japan? Oh my God, I think I keep flip-flopping this. Anyway, I think at this point they're called X. So this album's called Blue Blood. And I'm putting it somewhere. I think I'm putting it here. Here? I don't know. So the problem with this is it has bad recording quality again. The note I have is it sounds like a single mic capturing the amps and drums all at once. And somehow this is a remaster. It probably needs a re-listen, but I do enjoy the wide range of styles, like Galnerius does, which is, I'm sure they're a big influence on them, because this is like one of the biggest bands in Japan, I believe. And I'll be definitely listening to more from this band. So, all right, now we've got another story time with whatever the hell this is.
いつまでも二人このまま強く抱きしめて Fly away 輝いてる君の瞳
So you're looking at this and why am I listening to Japanese pop from the 90s? This is technically a best of from 2008. But I think I'm getting ahead of myself. So, this is the singer from Galnerius in his previous life as a soft rock solo act. I was super curious to see where he came from, and his style of music and singing is nowhere near Galnerius. I find this whole concept so funny. Him joining Galnerius is like if M. Shadows left or was fired from Avenged Sevenfold and was replaced by Justin Timberlake. I mean, obviously Justin is way more famous than Masatoshi Ono, but you know, whatever. That's the analogy I'm using. Anyway, this is an album, not a best of. Oops. I couldn't get his stuff in the US. Probably could have if I did more digging, but whatever. This album came out in 2008, but I'm putting it in 1992 because that's when his big hit came out, which is a song called You're the Only. So this goes. Why not? Let's put it here. So the thing I know to have here is the songs are fairly boring. Singing is not as interesting as Galnerius, and neither are the melodies. And the songs just have a lot less going on in them. And the other note I have here is weird. It's like, at some point his voice changed because I don't even recognize him on these recordings. So, I mean, obviously he's in like his 20s on a lot of these recordings. And in Galnerius, he's 43 in the first album. So certainly something changed in that time. But yeah, it's weird that I don't like recognize him. But anyway, that was just a fun little trip. I don't think I'll be checking him out anymore. Just not for me. All right, so now we have a band called Angra with Angel's Cry.
Simple-minded, brave, for now you succumb. Nothing changes your way. This world exists to be the same, based on all mistakes. The flowers fade along the road. Don't let fold your eyes. So loneliness becomes the law of a senseless life.
I guess I'll put this up here. Maybe I'll have to rethink this probably. Oh, Love Bites is all the way down here. Oh, and Hell Waits is down here. And Sabotage. Maybe something like that. So the note I have is it doesn't do much to grab me. The mix is not great for the drums. And the vocalist can sing well, but his timbre and technique aren't that noteworthy. Perhaps he'll be better with better melody writing. Well, unfortunately, he does not last in the band, and there's a new singer by the time I get to this album, which is 2004's Temple of Shadows. And this, I think, is gonna go maybe up here. I'll have to this I put that it maybe needs to re-listen. It's very interesting. And the production is miles better than the 1993 album, but it still doesn't quite grab me. There's also some kind of clicking or popping noise happening a couple times, but I think it might be a high-pitched piece of percussion that's like buried in the mix, because there's like ethnic percussion instruments of Brazil, because I guess these guys are Brazilian, just thrown in there. But because there's so much going on in the mix, it just sounds like popping. I guess I should listen to it with headphones so I could piece together what's happening. And the note I have here about the new singer is that he sounds like Bruce Dickinson, which is the singer from Iron Maiden, which is, pretty good guy to sound like. Oh, and I have a note here that says, I'm jumping back and forth a number of years on this and the next few power metal bands because I'm not familiar with their discography, so I read online what their best albums are, but also because certain years where I'm unsure about that best metal album thing. So I'm like trying to do two things at once, research their best album, but also try to find like, these problem years where I need to find a best metal album of the year. All right, so here's this power metal band called Rhapsody. And I'm not a big Rhapsody guy, which probably seems crazy. But anyway, because these guys are always in the conversation about great power metal bands, I really don't think they belong there. I guess they're influential because this is 1998. This is Symphony of Enchanted Lands. But they're really a good example of everything that power metal overdoes, is what I would say. They have a formula they do for every song, and that formula doesn't work for me. They don't do much with their own formula either. And the singer is really good, but there's something annoying about his constant wide vibrato, and somehow every melody sounds the same to me. They do get a lot of credit for inspiring much better bands. Like, that's great that they had that effect. Like, I can tell Galneris is inspired by them, and Gloryhammer seems to be a direct parody. I guess we don't have any Gloryhammer on here. We'll have them at some point for sure, especially for 2026. Their albums tell some kind of ongoing story, but that story is incredibly stupid. It's just like the superhero guy gets the magic thing and fights a lot of guys. Like, whoa, what a plot. One of the things that they made famous was their epic last track, epic final track for each album. I mean, every album ends with an around 10-minute or longer story song, but theirs are really dumb. These earlier albums feature, I assume, the earlier albums feature someone who I assume is just a band member doing the spoken word parts, but they have like a really thick accent, and they do a affectation that's like hilarious. And then aside from that, the things they do is they have like sound effects of something happening, which are oftentimes inscrutable, like a horse rides up and the rider gets off and walks somewhere. Like, what is happening in this story? Like, what, like, how am I supposed to understand this radio play that you put on? It makes no sense. And I would say the parts of their epics don't flow well, right? It's like that problem that a lot of super long songs will have. It's sometimes they just sound like a bunch of songs put together, like more than one song put together instead of one long song. And I kind of feel like they have that problem. So here's another album of theirs, Dawn of Victory from 2000. I rated this much higher than that last one, apparently. I couldn't tell you why. So maybe I'll put it here. I don't have any notes for this written down. I guess this is one of the first bands I was listening to this time around before I started taking much longer notes. But again, Rhapsody just doesn't work for me. It's just more of the same. Somehow I like this one more. I don't know. And then another album called From Chaos to Eternity. You'll notice this says Rhapsody of Fire instead of just Rhapsody. That is because, hilariously, there was a legal battle for the music platform Rhapsody. So they had to change their name, which I don't even know if Rhapsody's around anymore, the music platform. So it's kind of stupid. This one. Has a similar rating to the other one. So maybe I put it here. Because I wanted to give it more points because it has more variety than the other ones. But it loses points for having screams. Like, why? Don't put screams in your song. Don't put that extreme metal shit. You don't need it. This one has real voice actors in it. Which, I don't know, almost makes it feel worse. Which I guess that's not true. It's just, I don't know. It just makes it goofier, I guess, to have these like very serious voice actors reading this nonsense story. And then I have a note here that says there's an Iron Maiden cover, which is, I think, what I used as the clip, just to be a jerk, I guess. Because I wanted to point out this comment I have here is like, wow, what a difference it makes to have proper songwriting. Even though it's an Iron Maiden song that, I mean, I like that album it's off of, but it's one of the weaker songs off of that album, I would say. It's off of Power Slave, I believe. The song is Flash of a Blade. So yeah, it's like that song comes on, even though I don't know if it's that great of a cover, but like what a difference it makes to hear them following like good songwriting. Like it's crazy. All right, some more power metal stuff. Here's a band called Lost Horizon. Here's their first album called Awakening the World. I think their next album is actually much better, from what I understand. I don't know where to put this one. So maybe I'll put it here. I just have notes that say, pretty cool, some wild vocals. Probably need to re-listen. So, you know me, I love crazy vocals. I guess a lot of points. So now we have a band called Freedom Call. This is 2001's Crystal Empire.
Deep inside my eyes, you see the trees of long ago, telling tales of loneliness before.
This album seems like it's not very great according to my notes. I think I would rather listen to Rhapsody. The notes I have, oh, I guess there's a story here. I heard about this band because of Tony, if you remember. If you've watched my other videos from a couple years ago, where I review RPG Maker games, I had a buddy named Tony, Jabroni Tony, that would do them with me. He was actually the one that knew about this band, even though he's not a power metal guy or a metal guy at all. Because I guess he watched some old YouTube clips that would use Freedom Call for like gaming montages. Anyway, then I have here, they don't really stand out to me at all. And that there's still some pop punk in the vocals, which I'll talk about here with the next album from 2014 called Beyond. Have OC maybe D? Maybe I will do that. Maybe I will put it in D. Haha, take that, Freedom Call. I put that it's too long and too formulaic. It's just the same type of song over and over again. And somehow the songs end up saying like pop punk sometimes, which makes me crazy, which is why I'm like rating it lower. Like I hate that sound. I don't know how you screw up power metal multi-layered vocals and they end up sounding like pop punk like multi-layered vocals. I guess I'm not a sound engineer, so I can't answer that question, but that's what ended up happening here. They ended up losing points for it. Well, it's that time again, folks. It's time to talk about Galnarius again. Oh boy, after all those albums I ranked, I still have 3 more from the Yamabe era. It's crazy how much work these guys put out, huh? And this first album, Advance to the Fall from 2005, is probably their best work. Oh, now that I'm looking at this, I do have to think about these ratings that I have here. Wow. Am I really gonna put as high as I want to? I think it's somewhere in here. Which maybe seems crazy, but whatever. What do you do about it? Galnerius, they're the best. But anyway, this album is probably their best of the Yamabe era. It has a song called Deep Affection, which I will have a clip for that you've listened to. And that song alone pushes the rank of this thing up. And this album feels the most like their show album, so it's funny how that influences me to like it more. Also, that note about it sounds like one of their later albums. That was specifically about the song Deep Affection. I don't think I read that sentence correctly. But it's also a song written by its keyboardist, or their keyboardist, Yuki. And I haven't mentioned him in terms of the dynamic of the band. I've talked about Shu and Sho, Shu being the guitarist and Sho being the singer, but I haven't talked about Yuki, the keyboardist. Shu writes most of the music, and Yuki usually contributes 2 or 3 tracks. And he's definitely a third point of the triangle. He adds so much to the band's sound, which is another reason why I find these Yamabe albums less interesting, because it seems like Yuki isn't given as much to do or brought up high enough in the mix. Anyway, as for this album, it has a lot more neoclassical influence, which always gets more points with me. And then we have another album, Beyond the End of Despair, ... Yeah, this one's gonna go lower again. Unfortunately, I have to think about what are the songs on this one again. So maybe it goes here. But yeah, I still find these awkward to grade. While they don't stand out like the show albums, I always find myself accepting of a re-listen, which is why they're able to reach B and higher Bs, even though they don't have that magic of the show albums. And then the last album is One for All for One from 2007. And this one goes lower than that one. Probably over here. don't even have that many notes on this one. It just says the Nightcraver and Everlasting are in Japanese because what I talked about last time was that Yamabe's vocals suffer because he sings in English, which is a very difficult, language for a Japanese person to speak because the languages are so different. And as a result of that, I feel like he garbles his notes trying, struggling to pronounce English words. So these songs, which have Japanese in them, he sounds better. So go figure. Okay, real quick, I wanted to do some re-rankings. Last time I said that some of these albums were coming in hot, and I needed to re-listen to them to really get a better thoughts on them. So I guess I'll do that now. This I put here is the first album, Flag of Punishment. Yamabe's vocals are the most awkward on this album. I like the first and last song, but the rest kind of blends together. This one goes maybe here, I don't know. That's Reincarnation. And this notes I have here is knowing that Yamabe split because of creative differences colors my opinion on this album. Like I can't help but feel like I hear some kind of lack of chemistry in the band due to that rising friction between him and Shu or something. This album definitely feels like it has the least going on in it. Considering how highly rated every album is once he's gone, I hate to say it, but he kind of seems like a detriment to the band. Alright, so enough of these Yamabe albums, huh? I have to move this one. Beetlejuice. This is going down here. Originally I ranked this very high because I was so excited by its risky attempts at changing up their sound, but now it's become annoying on a couple tracks, and the stuff I like, I don't like nearly as much as the other albums, but it still has beautiful, memorable stuff on it. And now, Into the Purgatory gets bumped up to something like here. This album has really grown on me. Perhaps one day it will get even higher. There's a lot of beauty in its overall melancholy nature. Also, to bring up Yuki one last time, this album made me realize the funny dynamic that Shu and him have in their dueling solos. Like, they have this personality that Yuki is this goofy sidekick, and Shu is the macho main character. And I love that. Also, the song Glory has this section in it that sounds like a pirate jig, and it's just insanely fun. Then we have Union Gives Strength, which I think I'm rating somewhere like here. This album has really grown on me. I love the song Flames of Rage. The album does have shortcomings, which I guess stems from Galnerius labeling this a special album, which I guess means it's not as good as a real album. So we didn't put in the same effort. I don't know. The song Bleeding Sanity is certainly a weaker effort, and Hold On and See the Light of Freedom are just okay. But the song I mentioned, along with Howling Darkness and Whatever It Takes, are so strong it elevates it, especially as a great demonstration of Shu's ability to use black and nu metal influences to add to his repertoire to make something unique. Okay. And then this one, where'd it go? There you are. Is this already where it needs to be? Yeah, it is. I have a note here that says lower A, but it kind of seems like it's already there. Well, most Galnerius fans rate this pretty low. I guess I have to follow suit
I'm afraid this gets my lowest rating ever. 7 thumbs up.
This is the first album where Sho is starting to really be affected by his age. He's 56 at this point, so the vocals aren't exciting. Still, Run to the Edge is a classic Galnerius effort, and Let Us Shine is a very memorable pop 80s metal song. And this guy, he goes down a little bit, which is, I guess, not that big a deal. I rated this one too high. I wanted to believe this was a return to form that fixed my disappointment, so the album's close to it, but it doesn't quite do that. Sho is definitely much weaker here, but he's at least able to hit the notes he goes for. And I feel like every song has something good in it. It just lacks that Galnerius spark. Okay, so let's return back to what we were doing. All right, so Symphony X, Iconoclast, 2011. I felt like putting a ringer in here because Waka Waka. Holy shit. So Symphony X is an absolutely awesome band. You'll be seeing them a couple times on that metal album video. This album, however, came out in the same year as Galnerius' Phoenix Rising. And I find myself with a difficult choice as to which one is going to go on top. I still go back and forth. I think I still rate this one higher, but I guess we'll see when that video comes out. All right, so here's a band called Sabaton. They're pretty famous. They're probably one of the most famous power metal bands right now. And unfortunately, I don't really agree with how highly they're rated.
Taking orders from the heavens. Through hostile fire they will march, unaffected by the volleys. Facing death, their fate will keep the fear at bay. Into battle, facing the fire, north I will be done.
This is supposedly their best album. The notes I have here are there's not a lot going on in these songs. The best song is probably Carolian's Prayer and The Lifetime of War. And then there's a bunch of covers at the end. The song Harley from Hell isn't a cover, but it sounds like Burn by Deep Purple. Anyway, most of the songs are written by the singer, but his voice can't do much. But at the same time, I believe his voice is probably why this band is so popular. He does this froggy caveman voice like a proper macho metal band. Even though I enjoyed this more than I thought I would, the C makes sense as, unlike what I said with, say, Galnerius Yamabi albums, I don't find myself wanting to listen to this again. So it's like, fine, that's fine, I'm moving on, whatever. So now we have this guy Shu with Now I'm Called You Play Hard, or as he's called on Spotify, Shu from Galnerius. You can probably guess why I listened to this. He's continues to be pretty interesting, even though this is kind of like his B material. I don't know why he had these solo albums. It's crazy. This is in 2016, and the next album I'm going to put on here is 2019, because that's like in the middle of the peak of Galnerius. He probably burned himself out doing this. He probably shouldn't have done this. Why would you put out a whole album of original material? Although this does have a couple of reused songs, like Chain of Distress, and I forgot what the other one is, but it's off of Beetlejuice, and it's also pretty cool. I probably should re-listen to this album, especially since that way I'd remember what song that is that I'm talking about. This one's all instrumental, And the note I have is here is good video game music. So yeah, it definitely feels like B-sides, unused material to me. It still works pretty well. Unlike this one, this is called Vorvados, whatever that means, from 2019. I think this one goes. Oh, Galnaries. It's probably not as good as that. But yeah, this one has guest vocalists on it, so all the songs have singing on them. The note I have is that it just sounds like other Japanese metal bands. And it kind of loses that Galnerius sound, which I guess is what he wanted, but I don't know. I don't like the typical Japanese metal band sound from a lot of the ones I hear. Or at least I shouldn't say I don't like it. It's just that it doesn't really resonate with me, their style. Even though I've been picking up a lot of them. I think I mean more like the general, like average Japanese metal band. I don't like the way they do things for some reason. Oh, and one of the guest vocalists he has is Show from Galnerius. What a surprise. All right, so I have a band on here called Baskerville. Oh, better than this? I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Maybe I'll put it here. I put high D as my note here, but I re-listened to the vocals for like getting the clips and like, oh boy. I mean, I have notes here that make me question why I would rate them as high D. I mean, I put some good musicianship, which is, you know, true, but the note I have is some good musicianship, but everything is wrong. So the singer tries very hard, but he's awful. I definitely have that in one of the clips, I believe. I should be able to hear what I'm talking about. Like it sounds like it was all done in one take, like I said before with the other thing. And it was a bad day. Like I could see singing like this if it's like a live performance. Like if this was a live performance, I'd be like, oh, he sounds like he's almost there. But the fact this is like a studio album, it's like I don't like. Why didn't you do another take? But it does seem like he can kind of sing. It's like, I don't know. And once again, he's singing in English, which is making his notes it's affecting his notes, and his English is unintelligible. So I don't know why. I don't know why these Japanese bands are delusional to record their songs in English. I mean, I guess it makes sense because every band sings in English in order to have a wider audience. But when it's like this, like no one can understand what you're saying, so it doesn't make a difference. And the other note I have here is the vocal layering is totally messed up. So that's not good. And the note choices are just wrong, and the songs never grab me. I have a note here that says the first song is a weird choice to start the album. It has weird crowd sound effects to imply it was live, and it isn't live. It's not. I have a note here that the song Distant Scene sometimes sounds like Weezer with a question mark. Like, what is this? So yeah, as I recall, I found this album from a random YouTube recommendation, and you know, based on the guitar work, I was like, oh, maybe some of this stuff might be good. So I listened to them, and yeah, no, it didn't work out. All right, so here's another Japanese metal band called Unlucky Morpheus. with this album from 2018 called Change of Generation, which I think I read was supposed to be like their best album. They're kind of hard to understand what their discography is because a lot of their songs are like, or a lot of their material is like anime songs or video game music or something, and then later on they like become a real band. So this album, oh, I guess I'll do this. It's better than Sabaton, I'm pretty sure. So the note I have is here is too much death metal. I think I read somewhere. So they're generally labeled as power metal, but to me, it doesn't really sound like power metal. I mean, I guess you could call it Japanese power metal if that's like its own flavor, I guess. I don't know. I think I also saw somewhere describing it as like mellow death or tech death or something. Maybe mellow tech. I don't know. Which sounds more appropriate to me, at least for a lot of the tracks. And I have a note here that says the last few tracks are more neoclassical and a cover. But anyway, my frustration with this band comes from the fact that I discovered them, again from YouTube. They were doing a cover of Yngwie Malmsteen's song Far Beyond the Sun, which is a song from this, which is like a god tier song in itself. And they did a really good job. So I thought that the rest of their material would be something along those lines, and it is not. I feel like I've been bamboozled. So, I mean, I guess there's similarities, obviously, but like you can hear the inspirations, but like overall, it's no. Like more neoclassical stuff, please. Like, what is this crap? So then there's this, which I guess is another Unlucky Morpheus album called Gate of Hell, which came out this year. Yeah, this probably goes somewhere. Maybe. So again, too many death metal growls. And there's like down tuning and cliche death metal riffs, which is just doesn't work for me. There are parts that seem cool. I might have to force myself to re-listen to this because I get so like distracted by the death metal elements. They just make me shake my head and go, ugh, why? But I'm sure there's like good stuff in there. And then the last song on the album is a re-recording. And I was reading some comments that the band used to sound like this, but I don't know what that means because their discography is pretty hard to understand. Oh boy, here's a band called Twilight Force from 2019. Maybe that goes there. I don't know. So supposedly this is one of the better, or one of the good, newer power metal bands. I think they should be called Twinkle Force because they have too many bells and chimes, like ding dong ding 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 ding. Or not like shredding, but like chimes where they just go either up or down a key, or an octave, all the notes of an octave. And yeah, the problem with them is that the songs don't have highs or lows. They just have all highs. And so many bells that the guitars sound drowned out to me, despite the fact that this is supposed to be like a dual guitar god band. Like there's so many like good guitar solos and stuff. And I wrote I read a review of their album that I agree with, which is that this person described them as everything is safe here, including the danger. For some reason, the song Thunder Sword has a keyboard melody that sounds like a superhero theme, which is the clip I'm going to end up using because it makes me laugh. It's so funny. The songwriting just isn't quite there. It's chaotic, and the phrases don't end correctly, and the transitions are awkward. And the instrumentation is random at times. There's one song that has like a banjo. I think that's also Thunder Sword. And there's like sword sound effects. It's just a cringe, as the kids say. But you know, I could tell this band has talent and has the ability if they would just focus on like songwriting fundamentals and, you know, be willing to have parts of their song that are edgy, like metal is supposed to be, and then build up into the big bright moments, then it would be better. Like, have proper songwriting. They would be a great band. All right, so here's a random band that I read about somewhere on Reddit or something. They're called Tanagra, which I don't know if that's a reference to Star Trek.
Darmok and Zulord at Tanagra.
Anyway, so this album is called Meridium. Came out in 2019. Some cool proggy stuff. The vocals needed more of an emotional push to match the melancholy tones. Like, it's just kind of like, hey, baby, hey, hey. It's not my style of prog, and you know, like I mentioned earlier about like the chill Pink Floyd versus crazy Jethro Tull. It's more on the like long, drawn out side, like Pink Floyd. And it started to wear on me, but the last song brought me back, so maybe it's worth a re-listen. Oh. Where do I put this? Maybe it goes like here? I don't know. There's definitely some good musicianship and stuff too. Oh boy, Eternity's End. My big note here is it needs a re-listen. I actually re-listened to this a couple times, I believe. It's pretty cool. I think it goes there. There's some really cool neoclassical stuff and parts that actually got me excited. The song Bane of the Black Sword is insane. The band has some lineup changes they seem to be going through. So I guess that's why there's a delay, because this is 2021. This album is called Embers of War, and I think this is the most recent album. So I'm excited to see more of these guys. Hopefully they figure out their lineup changes. Yeah, they have some riffs that like immediately grabbed me, made me like pulled me out of whatever I was doing. I'm like, oh, and their guitar work is just like constant, insane. I think the main thing I would like to see from them is more like variety in their songs, more like tempo, some slower songs, because all their songs are just super fast, a million miles an hour, which, you know, works for me, but at least one moment of like respite, you know, maybe get a ballad in there somewhere, and then you'd be up here. All right, so here's Blind Guardian, a band I love a lot. Like I was saying with some other bands where I like some of their stuff so much I end up listening to everything. Blind Guardian's the same way. I think they've hit a point where I stopped giving them a chance, so I actually hadn't listened to this album, even though it came out in 2022. This is The God Machine.
Escape
pretty cool. Probably belongs up here. Maybe it should be a B. Maybe it needs a re-listen. Problem I have with Blind Guardian is it's one of those expectations things where it's like I have such high expectations that when it doesn't meet them, it makes me disappointed. And so maybe I'm rating this unfairly low. It seems like they were going for some kind of weird, creepy sound a lot of times. Like focusing on the sound rather than the actual compositions, I would say. Which I guess is what a lot of bands do, right? They try to hit a sound or an experience of some sort with their music. And I wish they wouldn't do that, I guess. But, you know, it kind of worked. I think this made it more memorable than the album before this, or more interesting, I should say. Because that album I listened to a few times, and I can't, like, get into it. That one's called Beyond the Red Mirror. But yeah, they're capable of this, so that's what I want. I want more of that. But yeah, for me, the songs don't really land. I probably should re-listen to, but like I said, I've been finding myself really struggling the last couple albums. So this album is also additional struggle. Yeah. So here's another power metal band called Our Paladin. They are much newer. This album is 2022. Wait, this album is 2022. And I'm putting it somewhere in here, maybe? This album didn't really pull my attention, but it sounded good. It did rip off Zelda at one point very blatantly. I'm going to use that for the clip, which kind of colored my opinion of them and made me distracted. So I need to listen to it again. Listen to the rest of the stuff. They have a lot of focus on like riffs, which is really cool. And their next album, so this album was called With the Magic of Windfire Steel, which is way too many words. And this one's called Beyond the Reach of Enchantment. Like, this is just like gibberish. Like, I don't know. I think it's part of the problem. It's like, you should focus on something that's succinct and memorable instead of just like a bunch of words about fantasy nonsense. Have a point, have substance. But, you know, they're just doing the power metal thing that a lot of bands do where it's like, magic and paladins and whatever. I don't have like a point, or like, I don't know, whatever. Anyway, I don't have a lot of notes about this band, unfortunately. It just says, very fun, maybe re-listen. So I think that means it goes here. Again, the riffs are pretty cool. It's probably worth listening to. This one is Hagane, another Japanese metal band, all-girl band. This is code /9012 or 9021. Not to be confused with 90210. Which is a TV show from the 90s in America. It's based on a zip code. Which, that's too much explanation, whatever. Notes I have here is, oops, I forgot to write this one down. It's very bright. It's not power metal, ? It's very anime. I think I like the guitars more than Love Bites. That's a weird comment. I don't know if that's true. I feel like I've listened to this since then, and I didn't really get as pulled in. So maybe it goes here. Now I have a band called Sacred Outcry for the album Towers of Gold 2023. notes I have here are maybe re-listen. This came highly recommended, so it probably needs it. I don't think it really grabbed me, but it also seemed pretty cool, so maybe I'll put it there. And now we have a band called Love Bites. This is an album that a lot of the power metal people are putting at their like top, like album of the year, early contender. I don't think that'll happen, but it's pretty good. More I've listened, there's a few songs on here that I think are pretty good. This is called Outstanding Power and came out this year, as I said. I put a note that says maybe needs more of a re-listen. I think I've re-listened to it a few more times. The thing I've realized is this actually is more like thrash metal than power metal. I don't know. People's definition of power metal is all over the place. But I especially say thrash metal because literally the first track is like very similar to the opening of Blackened by Metallica. And just in general, it's constant like pace and stuff and riffing. It reminds me of thrash metal. I mean, I guess to a certain extent, power metal is pretty thrashy just with like actual vocals. But that also is the problem with this band is I don't think the singer is that good, which isn't to say, I'm not saying she's bad, but the note I have here is not good enough. Which is unfortunate. If they had someone as good as show, maybe they could find themselves up here. They have a few albums already, but maybe they'll find their way there. Gallinarius had 5 whole albums with their first singer, and then the second they dropped him, they had this. It's like, whoa. Anyway, that's probably not fair to that singer. I apologize, but that's how I feel. I have a note here of a song called Dream of King. It has an awful EDM techno part. So basically that song sucks. That's what I'm saying there. And then the rest of notes here I have is that probably the best part is the first 4 songs, and then it goes on a bit too long. Why do a whole hour album? This is something I complain about a lot, is I don't know why albums are now an hour long instead of 40 minutes. I think 40 minutes is a lot more sensible for an amount of music to put out at once. I think some bands like Gallinarius seem like they have, and Symphony X, have a lot of stuff that they can jam into there, but I think for most people, you should just do around 40 minutes. Like, we've been doing that. That was the standard for like 40 or whatever years. And then it changed when CDs became the normal thing, which is like stupid. Like, who cares that a CD can hold almost 80 minutes of music? You don't need to put 50% more music out in an album. Like, just focus on making a solid 40 minutes. Speaking of putting out only 40 minutes of music and then proving my statement wrong by having it be not very good, Angus McSix, and this is their album Angus McSix and the All-Seeing Astral Eye. This is, wait, where am I? Oh, yeah, here we go. Yeah, I mean, I guess. So yeah, there's another band with another story. The singer from Gloryhammer, which again, they're not on here yet, but they will be. His name is Thomas Winkler. He was kicked out of the band. He was then picked up by the guitarist from Orden Ogden to form this band, which I really want to say was something. Wait, hold on. What do my notes say here? Oh, I want to say that this guitarist from Orden Ogden really wanted to make a like more poppy or for the kids type of project. Because this band is shamelessly like Gloryhammer in its humor and absurd lore, but with just like clearly less inspiration and no continuity. Like the story of the songs is just nonsense and stupid crap just happening all over the place. Like, oh, Angus McSix has a dinosaur now. Here's a song about his sword. Here's a song about how he passed out in a bar, whatever. It's just stupid. And this project definitely shows how much of the band's sound came from everyone else and not Thomas Winkler, because Glory Hammer's next album without Thomas Winkler was quite good. And this band is way too focused on catchy choruses. Anyway, now that I've talked about Thomas Winkler a whole lot, guess what? He left this band too. At least he wasn't kicked out, I guess. But what makes that awkward is that the band is named after his character, because each of the people in the band is supposed to be a character, and he's supposed to be Angus McSix. So it's awkward that he's not in the band. That Angus McSix is not in the band Angus McSix anymore. And he's been replaced with his brother in quotes, because it's just a guy. It's a different singer. He's not related at all. But he goes by Adam McSix, and he's a pretty good singer. But there's just too many effects on his vocals, and yeah, I don't. I just want to hear his pure single voice. Like, give me more of that. Also, the band has no guitar solos. Sorry, too many guitarists, but no guitar solos, because they have 3 guitarists. They also have no keyboardist, despite the fact that it has a ton of keyboards in it, which is like, I wish bands wouldn't do this, like, because that just means all that's going to be backing tracks in a live performance. And there's too much electronica influence in this. Like, I don't like, get it out of here. I hate it. And then the last song, for some reason, borrows from Conan, the Barbarian. Like, you're not going to get away with that with me. Like, I recognize that fucking melody immediately. I'm also not a fan of the guitar tone. It sounds too weak or buzzy or something, and Glory Hammer does not have this problem. I like their guitar sound. And Glory Hammer will have an album out later this year, so I'll talk about them then, I guess. Alright, so this band is called Alhambra, and their album is called Skyward Prey. It's Yuki from Galnerius, the keyboardist. He has his own band. This is pretty chaotic. Needs more listens, I think. But I think the more I listen to it, the more I'm like, oh, maybe this doesn't work as well as I thought it did. So maybe it goes up here or something. We'll see. We'll see as time goes on. It's not perfect. All right, and this last one, I saved the least for last instead of, I wish I could say, last but not least, but that's not the case here. This is a band called Anubis, and this album is called Anthropomorphicide. I should have probably, well, I did guess, based on the album name and this album art, that there's some sort of extreme metal thing going on here. And there is. This gets rated lower. So this band is a mix between power metal, specifically I noted Sabaton, which I guess because of the vocals being like froggy and macho, and extreme metal. And there's some sort of weird processing in the vocals. It almost sounds like the vibrato was done in post. Something going on with it. And the songs just lack clear songwriting. Some of them songs fade out really early, like way too soon. Some songs have random crap thrown in them. Like one of the songs has a Gwen Stefani like guest vocalist and like rave keyboards. There's some hints of like good stuff, but it's a mess. And then the album just ends abruptly. And I have a note here that says was gonna give him a C, but it went down to a D because of like thinking about the parts that annoy me, just like pissed me off. And so there you have it. There's all these songs. Wow, or albums. Whoa, my God, I had to blow through so much, and I'm tired of talking. So I guess I'll end it here. Look forward to the actual end of the year. This is just the halfway point, and I'll have an album of the year decided as well. We'll see. And then I'll do that metal albums of the year for each year later on at some point. At least once I figured out what the best album of 2026 is, for sure. Spoilers, there's another album from someone who just came out. So we'll have to see if they manage to take the crown, huh? Anyways, I'll see you guys next time.